Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Schaaf. I am the Marketing and Development Manager with the Time to Heal. Joining us today, we have Gina Woodruff. Gina is a registered dietitian and licensed mental health therapist with the Nebraska Methodist Health System. She specializes in oncology nutrition. Whether working with patients before, during, or after their cancer treatments, Gina strives to go above and beyond for them and their families. Thank you so much for joining us, Gina.
Myself.
There
Thank
we
you for
go.
having me.
Well, perfect. If you go ahead and get started.
Okay, I'm going to pull up my slides here. I'm sharing my screen, right?
We've got it. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Is everyone seeing what I'm seeing, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to my kitchen. This is my lovely kitchen at my home, so don't mind it. And we're going to kind of navigate our way through cooking together with not the highest tech tools, but we will do our best. I'll introduce myself a little bit more here, and then we'll go into cooking demo. We'll talk about credible sources of nutrition information, and then we'll cover some supplements and supplement use during cancer therapy. And then we will end with a brief survivorship nutrition review. So I've been with Methodist for 5 years now, and I just recently got my CSO, which is just my certification in oncology nutrition. So I've learned a lot over the last 5 years working with oncology patients. The cooking demo today is from a book that you see on your screen here, the Cancer Diet Cookbook. A lot of really good recipes in this book. It can actually be found on Amazon for very inexpensive. The lady that wrote it, the author, she's a dietitian. She also has a blog and an Instagram that you can get on and follow, and she posts a lot of cool stuff that way too. So the recipe we're going to do is veggie lovers chicken soup. Why I picked this, it's high protein. So 28 grams of protein in a serving, which is really good. You want to have protein at every meal, but anytime you go over 30 grams of protein in a meal or in a setting, your body's, that's about the maximum that it can do, is 30 grams in a setting. So you want to space out your protein throughout the day. It's low carb, only 12 grams. So if you are watching your blood sugars, we know that 12 grams is very low for a serving, equivalent to one carb exchange. That's like a snack for people who are tracking their sugars. So very low carb, and it's high in fiber, 3 grams of fiber per serving. So we know that that will keep you full longer. I did click some or add some links in. So this website, AICR.org, the American Institute for Cancer Research, it's a credible website that I would highly recommend all of you if you're looking for recipes or nutrition or health information about cancer. That is where you can go to check things out. So I took some of the ingredients that we have in our soup today, and I put links to show you guys what's so cool about this website. So if we click on that first link, because we're going to put spinach in our soup today. Can everyone see what My screen changing?
We don't see it yet, Gina. I think it's because you're on that separate window for presentation.
Okay.
Would you like me to go ahead and give it a try to pull that up while you move forward?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh, I see, gotcha.
Yeah, or you're welcome to switch your sharing.
I don't even know if I know how to do that.
Not a problem. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Gina, while I'm kind of pulling that together, do you mind if I ask you a quick question that somebody submitted in advance?
Sure.
Okay, so my chemotherapy gave me colonic inertia. I was told by a GI that I needed a low fiber, low residue, pure foods diet. I also noticed that if the vegetable had any sugar content, uh, or carbs that turned into sugar, it affected my ability to sleep. Which vegetables and fruits would be low fiber, low sugar, low residue? Is there a good source or directory for information like this? What do you think, Gina?
So this is a really complex situation. And I could probably find some good resources online. It would take me a minute to pull up something. It's just not something I see every day. But what I would recommend is seeing a GI dietitian, a dietitian that specifically works with patients who have these very specific GI issues. And I can definitely provide a resource, a dietitian here in Omaha that could help in this situation.
Thanks so much, Gina.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've got this website pulled up here, the American Institute for Cancer Research. Is there anything I can click on for you?
So, did you click the link through the? Um,
Yep, through the PowerPoint, the spinach and cancer. Can you see
okay,
it
so
okay?
let's see here. Get out of this tab. Okay, so basically, the links that I put on the PowerPoint here are just to show you guys that this website has information on these particular foods and why they are good and beneficial for our health. So we can see over on like the right hand side that spinach has um, beta carotene, flavonols, vitamin C, fiber, folate, and it goes into some preparation tips, which I really like, and then also some of the data about why we want to include foods like spinach in our diet. For example, fiber. We know that dietary fiber decreases our risk of colorectal cancer. It also can help us manage our weight. So
Just
we
one
don't
moment
have
here,
to.
Gina.
Oh,
If
sure.
you can go ahead and stop your screen share, I just realized the folks weren't taking a look at the website as we were.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
There it is. No, it's fine.
Thanks everyone for keeping us on our toes there. Hopefully we've got it here. All right. Is everybody able to see that now? Go ahead and give me a reaction or pop off me. Yep, there, Janet's got
Yeah.
us. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
In the meantime, I believe, forgive me for pronunciation, is it Velika? You had a great question regarding spinach's benefits. Does it matter if it's cooked or raw, Gina? And then I'll turn it back over to you.
Um, Either way, so cooking it a little bit does help the bioavailability, the absorption in our system, but you don't want to cook the heck out of it because then all of your water-soluble vitamins are going to leach out into the water or whatever. Unless, of course, you're planning, like we're putting it in the soup, so it will leach into our soup broth, and then that would be okay.
Great, thank you. All right, I will stop sharing my screen if we're done with the website. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll stop and let you pick it back up. And I've just sent that
Okay.
link to the website in the chat. But again, we will be sharing Gina's presentation after we're all done here, as well as a recording of this call. Awesome. I can see that just fine, Gina.
I think you're on mute, Gina.
Oh, whoops. Yep.
Okay, now we good? All right, let me bring my PowerPoint back up. Okay, can everyone see and hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so recipe tips. Today for this recipe, I'm going to be substituting. It calls for herbs de Providence, which I really like, but you hardly keep them in your pantry. I am going to use Italian seasoning. They're very similar combination of herbs, spice blend. And this recipe also calls for bone broth over just regular broth or stock. I actually recommend using bone broth to a lot of our patients because they need more protein in their diets. Today, I am going to be using just a regular vegetable broth that I have in my pantry, but know that bone broth can be a tool to boost your protein intake in a lot of recipes.
Hey,
And
Gina,
then,
while you're talking on that, we just had a question about flavor without sodium. Carol likes to use salt-free and celery and lemon, but they don't really add a lot of flavor. Do you have any recommendations for kind of seasoning the salt-free bone broth and things like that?
yes, so you can either choose to use fresh herbs and spices to like simmer the bone broth to let that flavor come out, or in the seasoning of whatever you're cooking, using like a Mrs. Dash seasoning, um, any dried herbs or spices while you cook can add a lot of flavor without adding a lot of salt. Does that answer the question?
I think that should do it. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Uh, and then this recipe calls for a tiny pasta, but really you can substitute any pasta you want in this recipe. Use whatever's in your pantry. You just have to adjust the time depending on, if it takes longer to cook or not. I have some bow tie pasta that I'm going to use today. And then you can always use canned or chopped tomatoes in place of fresh tomatoes, and you never need to drain the liquid. You can always, especially in a soup or a casserole dish, you want to keep those liquids in there. So you can just dump the whole can of tomatoes in there. Okay, so before we get moving on to those things, I'm gonna try to show you guys. I'm gonna move my camera a little bit and we're gonna start cooking, okay? And I wanna make sure that you can see me a little bit better here. Okay.
Would you like me to unshare your screen, Gina, while you're cooking?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Now we can see. Perfect.
Okay, can we see the pot and all the things?
Looks good.
Okay. All right, let me get this paper away from the burner. That would be bad.
That would probably be one of the most
So,
entertaining Zoom calls we've ever had. So if you could keep that.
um, no, not today, ladies. Not gonna burn it down today. Now, I'm just adding some oil in because we're gonna saute some of the vegetables in this soup recipe here. I am using rotisserie chicken. So when I go to Costco, I buy a rotisserie chicken, shred it up, and put it in my freezer in portions that I will use. So this has just been chicken from a rotisserie that I pulled out of my freezer that I'm going to use today. So we'll get to that in a minute. I'm just over here. I'm going to dice it up a little bit while that oil heats up.
While Gina's working on that, if you guys want to get into the chat and maybe send us where you're listening from, that would be great. Valika's from Washington, D.C. That's wonderful. Linden,
Oh my
Washington.
gosh.
Yeah, Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. Pearland, Texas, Ohio. Wonderful. Well, we're so excited to welcome you all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize this was a national thing.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so I got my oil heated.
Okay.
I have my shallots here. We're gonna get those in. And I'm gonna do some pepper. This recipe does not have pepper in it. A little bit of salt here. Something I've learned about cooking, and I'm not a great cook, but you have to do it every day to get better at it. And even if that means that you're cooking a simple breakfast or a lunch for yourself, it takes practice every day to learn how your pots cook, how your stove cooks, how your oven cooks, how maybe you don't add enough seasoning, this and that. So I wing cooking. To me, it's not a science. Give that a stir here. So I always add my onions first, and then I'm gonna get that zucchini from my refrigerator. Okay, so we got zucchini, and then I had these little plum tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, so I am gonna use those. Give it a stir. Kind of let them cook down here. So you want to this is something I've learned as I constantly cook for my family as well, is you want to start sauteing the things that are going to take the longest to cook. Onions, zucchini, for example, or if you have like red peppers or bell peppers in your recipe, those things are going to take a while to cook down and soften. Carrots, celery, whereas things like mushrooms are going to cook down pretty quick, and you don't want to add those right at the beginning.
Gina, while you're cooking that, we had a private chat ask about when will we cover a healthy diet conversation? And I just wanted to let everybody know we will finish up this cooking demo, learn a little bit about how to make this wonderful protein-rich soup, and then we will circle back to credible sources to rely on for information about diets. You've got a slide in here about talking about the different diets and some supplement information. So we will absolutely circle back to that. So please do stay tuned after we cover this soup recipe here.
Yeah, and I can kind of talk about some of those. I can leave my screen on me cooking, but
Yeah,
then I can chat if you guys are able to see at home your the PowerPoint slides. I can definitely start working through um, some of those other slides. I'm going to add in the garlic. Side note, back to cooking. I'm doing a garlic press here. You can do minced garlic. You can mince your garlic yourself. You can use garlic powder. Whatever you have works. But garlic cooks really fast and it tends to burn. So that's why I'm adding it now, a little bit later on, because we're going to add some liquid here soon. We do not want burnt garlic in this recipe. Okay, so credible resources. So you guys will see on the PowerPoint slides that I listed several credible resources, one being the site that we just visited, which was the American Institute for Cancer Research. That's a credible site you can get a lot of good information from. I use that with my patients a lot. There is our website. So Methodist has bestcare.org. We have Harper's Hope is kind of our foundation that supports services like nutrition. And we are constantly trying to update and add that. So we have a lot of good information on our website that I have created and built over the years that we are trying to continually add to. So you can always check that out. I did put in a site for herbs and supplements. So we do get a lot of questions about herbs and supplements. So I have a credible link there for that. We have, let's see, I did put in the dietary guidelines link as well, which can be a little bit overwhelming, but I wanted you guys to focus a little bit on the table that I mentioned there, that A35. That is a good place for you to start. Okay.
Gina, we've got to mention that Julie, not to call you out, Julie, sorry, your name is associated with your comment. She says she is a picky eater and she doesn't eat a lot of the veggies. Are there some ways that you can introduce veggies and other health-rich foods into your diet when you're not necessarily a fan?
Ooh, smoothies or sauces could be a way.
I love that idea.
Because you can blend them. Is it a taste thing? Well, it depends if it's a taste thing or a texture thing. Blending into a smoothie or sauce will keep that fiber in there, which is really one of the main things that we need from fruits and vegetables.
And Julie says it's actually both. So that idea of blending things in so you can still maintain that nutrition sounds like a great option, Julie.
Yeah. Yep. And, with smoothies or sauces, then you can kind of have it take on what you want. So you can add a protein powder or chocolate milk or If you're making a pasta, you can add it to marinara sauce or white sauce, or it's easy to camouflage. Also, Mexican dishes like tacos or enchiladas, you can sneak a lot of stuff inside that no one will know about, like I do to my children. Black
So it might be
beans.
about tricking yourself too then, right, Gina?
Yes. All right, so I did the broth in there. I put the chicken in there. It's smelling really good. I'm going to use apple cider vinegar. The recipe calls for that, or white wine. I'm going to let this get up to a simmer, and then I will add the pasta and let that cook. All right, so let's keep moving along here. So we talked about credible sources. Let me get back to, I'll share my screen so that we can keep going through the PowerPoints. Oh, you guys wanted to talk about, before we move on, there was this article, this one, that I was asked to present on, so let me talk a little bit about it here.
And Gina, I don't know that we were able to share that article with the participants in advance. I could be mistaken. So if you could just give us a quick summary of what that is.
Sure. Put my screen here.
Gina, I'm so sorry. I think you're back on mute. Let me unmute that there. So sorry. There we go.
Okay. Sorry, guys. All right. I'll start over. So get back to my slides here. The study was on breast cancer survivors, and they were seeing if diet really made a difference in recurrence, so cancer coming back. And the headline that they put is research, diet not linked to reduced cancer recurrence. Well, that's very misleading. So I read through and I pulled up some of the main points for you guys. When I looked at this article, I realized that the intervention group received education on multiple lifestyle guidelines for cancer prevention and continued to follow up with group activities like cooking classes and physical activity support. Whereas the control group only received a single presentation and a brochure that recommended guidelines. So there was a group that wasn't very well supported, and the other group where they were looking to see if these things helped, like diet and lifestyle. They gave them a lot of tools. Implications. So results of the intervention. Assumptions. Strategies. So the study wasn't designed, what this is saying, the study was not designed very well for tracking interventions and changes. And it didn't produce enough statistically strong evidence one way or the other to support any sort of real outcome, like diet doesn't matter, is what they're saying. So there was not a strong statistical outcome or support based on the study that they did. And then consider, regardless of their group assignment, the women who improved their diet score most were 41% less likely to have breast cancer reoccurrence than women who made the least improvement. So what they found is that some of the survivors in the control group, so the group that was not given an intervention to make lifestyle changes, if they went ahead and did that on their own, some of them in that group were very successful. And then just as successful as the ones who had in the intervention group that had the tools. So you can make a difference. And this study just did not pick up between the two. It didn't define it very well. You can't put statistics on it. A lot of gray area. And I know that that might be hard. That was a tough one to explain to you guys, and I apologize.
Thank
But
you for giving it a go too. I think that when we share the article and the slides after the recording, that some of the dots will be connected. So thank you for that.
mhm. All right. So just read the studies closely. Make sure that you're understanding that sometimes the sample size is not big enough, or they statistically can't track these outcomes that they claim.
That's so important to share with everyone. And thank you also for sharing some credible resources so that folks know that they can count on those things being accurate, as close to accurate as possible, and up to date. Thank you, Gina.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the topic of supplements. So I just selected a few that I get a lot of questions about every day, or that I see most commonly that people take. So starting first, that coenzyme CoQ10, you might see it as. This one, you shouldn't take it if you're on any sort of blood thinners. This is considered an antioxidant, which can interfere with certain chemotherapies. So it's very specific. Rule of thumb with CoQ10 is if you are receiving any sort of chemotherapy, you want to just double check with your doctor if you should keep taking it or not. There is not enough evidence to support that it helps or benefits the patient to take during therapy. So even though it's an antioxidant and we need it, we haven't found that there's any pros or cons to taking it. It just is more about, is it safe for you to take based on blood thinners and the type of chemo that you're getting. The next one I see a lot of is curcumin, or also known as turmeric. So we see this a lot with in these big horse capsules where they put that bright yellow turmeric powder in there. It's a spice. We use it in cooking. Some cultures use it a lot more in their foods than we do. And that's when you swallow a capsule of turmeric, the bioavailability, that means our ability to absorb that, is very low. It's not an effective way to get what we need from it. They do add, you'll notice that some supplements add pepperin to increase the absorption of black pepper, but that can be dangerous when combined with other drugs. So we really do not, I really tell patients, anyone, survivors, to shy away from taking a turmeric capsule, a turmeric supplement. There's not enough evidence to support the use for it to prevent cancer.
Gina, Sue has just asked if there's a difference between turmeric and black turmeric. Is that something you're familiar with?
I did not know that there was a black turmeric.
All right, fair enough. Sue, we'll have to do some digging on that. Thanks for asking. And then before I let you move on, Steve also wanted to double check about the recipe. What ingredients give this so much protein? I think you mentioned bone broth, but what else excuse me, what else did you say was in there?
Yep. So your bone broth, your chicken, and then your pasta, which I'm getting ready to add what I have right now. Your pasta can add the protein. So things like, I'm just using a bow tie pasta, but if you were to use quinoa or bulgur or another heartier grain, that could influence the protein amount in your soup. Okay, so I added my noodles. I'm going to add my spinach real quick, and then we'll keep talking about supplements here.
While Gina is doing that, Valika had another great comment that there's also protein pasta like Bonza brand that might work to add a little bit of extra protein into your diet. Tiffany also had a great question. She mentioned, why does piperine as a supplement dangerously interfere with drugs, but pepper does not? That might be a bit of a targeted question great for an oncology, a GI nutritionist as well. But Gina, if you've got anything you want to weigh in on that, feel free. Oh, sorry. Now I've got you on mute. I ask her a question and she can't even respond. There we go. She's working on it. There, we're back. Sorry about that, Gina.
Okay. It's okay. So that I do not know. I'll be honest. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. Black pepper is just something that's in our diet every day. I don't know if the pepperin is a different component of the black pepper or what. I will have to specify, but I do know it is often combined with turmeric for absorption in our bodies.
Thanks, Gina.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me get back to my PowerPoint. Okay, can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yep.
All right, so glutamine, non-essential amino acid, which is a protein component that we get glutamine in our diet from a variety of foods, supports cells in the gastrointestinal mucosa and immune system, and it may support the mucous membrane during chemo and radiation therapies, but remains unresolved. So what that means is our body needs, of course, protein and a bunch of different variety of amino acids to build and heal and keep the tissue intact and working properly. A lot of chemotherapies and a lot of radiations, wherever it's targeted, destroys our mucous membranes, meaning anywhere from our mouth all the way down, swallow, stomach, colon, everything gets affected by those types of therapies. So glutamine can be something that people try to take to heal some of the damage of chemo and radiation, but there's still not really a strong evidence that it does anything good or better. The amount is undefined, so it's still a gray area that is being studied. Not the worst thing you could take during treatment, though, I will say that. It's not strongly contraindicated like some of the other ones, like the CoQ10 might be. Omega-3. So we are all familiar with omega-3, and a lot of people take it either in a capsule form or a liquid. You can take it like in a liquid shot form. This is the polyunsaturated fatty acid essential for a lot of things in our body during pregnancy, heart health, may decrease inflammation. We also, other than supplements, can get it from fatty fish, flaxseed, soybeans, walnuts, and chia seeds. And some people, if you're taking it in a supplement form, it can be dangerous if you're taking more than 4 grams a day. It does interfere with that, the blood clotting and the bleeding. So if you have any concerns for, or if you're on Coumadin or a blood thinner or anything like that, you want to be cautious about taking an omega-3 or eating a lot of these high omega-3 foods in your diet. There's some cancer diets out there that are unfounded, that call for a very high amount of flaxseed and oil, and those kind of things are not safe to do. So anything too much is not good. So it's okay to take in an appropriate dose, and it's shown to manage to positively manage several of the chemotherapy drug side effects. But it's not for prevention of cancer. You can't take it for prevention. And then the last we have is vitamin D. I'm going to take a quick pause. I need to blow my nose, and I'll be right back. You guys hang on.
In the meantime, if you guys are still having some trouble, I see there's a couple of folks that mentioned that they can only see Gina's camera view. In the upper area of your screen, it just depends on which size of screen you're using, whether it's in the direct center of the top or off to the right. There's a view options tab, and you should be able to select a different mode, whether that's side by side or presenter view, and you should be able to select the PowerPoint screen from there. But if you are unable to see her, we'll just try something else. Just shout out in the chat for me. Thank you.
Alrighty. Our soup is looking good, by the way. We are just kind of waiting for the noodles to cook, and then it would be done. Our last supplement here that I added is vitamin D. Vitamin D is extremely important for us human beings to have, and it's involved in gene regulation, supports our immune function, and there's a blood test, a lab that doctors will use to look at the amount of vitamin D. And many of us have had it done at some point in our life, but it's that 25 hydroxy vitamin D level. Ideally, you want to be 40 to 60. That's a good number to be for a result. You can supplement with vitamin D3. So if you've ever gone to the store and you see there's a vitamin D2 and there's a vitamin D3, the vitamin D3, the co-calciferol, is the most bioavailable to our bodies, and it's recommended that you take it with calcium. Calcium helps the absorption of vitamin D. So oftentimes you'll see, I'm blanking on the name of the supplement, but it's a supplement with calcium and the vitamin D3 in it. You'll see that quite often. You can also, take your vitamin D3. What I do is if I'm eating yogurt for breakfast, that's when I take my vitamin D3. Calcium in the yogurt, I know it's helping me absorb that D3. If you get a low reading, so you get that blood test, your doctor says your vitamin D is low, where do we start? We start with about 2,000 IU supplementing daily. And this is something that you have to take over time to see a result in the numbers in your labs. So vitamin D is safe to take during chemotherapy. We have gotten some evidence that it is cancer preventative, most specifically with colon cancer. So it's never a bad thing to have a little vitamin D in your life. I take it right now. It's winter. I'm not outside. The sun's not shining that much. So I supplement it in the winter. Any questions coming up about supplements?
We just got one from Carol. You know what? It looks like she is just letting us know what worked for her. She's on vitamin D3, calcium with D3, a fish cod, liver oil, magnesium, potassium, iron. And she wonders if she's doing too much, but all her stats look good that were drawn. So just kind of, if you can comment on if it feels like you're doing too much, are you? Do you need to talk to your doctor? Kind of talk to me about that, Gina.
Yes. So when it comes to supplements, a multivitamin is good. If you know some specific areas that you're deficient in, or your doctor has told you you need to supplement with potassium, or you need to supplement with magnesium or vitamin D, calcium, then I would do those things. But otherwise, I like to keep it simple, and I don't like to have people taking a lot of different capsules, especially during chemo, but even in survivorship, it's not necessary. I don't think the magnesium would hurt you. The potassium is one that you want to make sure. Usually it's either the doctor recommended the potassium for whatever reason, or you're getting a drug that depletes your body of the potassium. So you might want to check on that with your doctor and be cautious about taking potassium if you don't need to, because it does regulate our heart rhythm and stuff. So if our potassium gets too high, we can have heart abnormalities. You just want to be kind of cautious with that one.
Gina, I feel like that's a perfect segue into your next slide too, where you're talking about prevention and survivorship, and you're kind of talking about how else can I reach that ideal? Feel free to let us know more about that.
Yeah, so I summed up here what the general recommendations are for cancer prevention and survivorship. And this is from that American Institute for Cancer Research website. So you can find all of this on the AICR.org link that I have earlier in my presentation. So the recommendation on fruits, veggies, and fiber. You want to aim for 30 grams of fiber a day. That's 3.5 to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables each day. That's a lot. So start small. That's what I say. Any little bit counts. Making sure you're having a little bit of a fruit and vegetable at each meal, if possible, will help you to reach that goal, and in your snacks too. Exercise. The recommendation for that is 150 minutes each week. That's 30 minutes, 5 days a week, moderate intensity at a minimum. So moderate intensity, walking, stair climbing, standing at your desk. In these 30 minutes, I always tell patients, these 30 minutes can be spread throughout the day. It does not have to be a one go on the treadmill, 30 minutes. You know, I, for example, take many flights of stairs at work during the day. All of those flights add up to my 30 minutes. I walk from the parking lot to my desk. That adds up, that sort of thing. And the more you exercise and the more intensity of the exercise, the more benefit you're going to get for cancer prevention, survivorship. Then another big recommendation, of course, is weight management. So in the oncology world, in the cancer world, we do look at the link between BMI, so overweight and obesity associated with about 12 different types of cancers. And so secondary to not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight really, we know, reduces your risk for cancer. And you can definitely talk with a dietitian about how to manage your weight long term, and how to look at your BMI and to know where healthy weight is for you and what's realistic for you as well. Last thing they cover is red meat. So I always get this question, what is considered red meat? Red meat, it's beef, lamb, and pork. Okay, and the recommendation for red meat is 12 to 18 ounces of cooked red meat per week. That amount or less is a safe and healthy cancer preventative choice. That's about 3 servings of red meat throughout the week. Reduces your risk for colorectal cancer. In Nebraska, in the Midwest, that could be a challenge for some people, and I do understand that, and I have a lot of those conversations with my patients. And then, but there's chicken, there's turkey, there's vegetables that provide a lot of plant-based foods that provide a lot of protein for you versus using red meat. And I do give a lot of recipe tips on what to substitute in those cases. And then the final recommendation is to avoid processed meats. Processed meats are your deli meats, your sausages, your hot dogs, your pepperonis, anything that's cured and processed with salts and then nitrates and nitrites. Those would fall under that processed meat category. And we know those aren't good for our GI tract.
Thank you, Gina. I know that you've got a slide coming up here about 3 different diets, but I've got a quick question here from Ramona about anti-inflammatory foods. Can you explain what anti-inflammatory foods means?
Yes, so anti-inflammatory foods, processed meats and red meats are considered the opposite of anti-inflammatory, right? Anti-inflammatory foods are hard to define, but they're foods that provide us with lots of vitamins and minerals. So mostly plant-based foods are going to be considered your anti-inflammatories, along with healthy fats.
And the second part of that question, Gina, was how, should we seek those out in our diet? And because you've just said that they're mostly plant-based food, it sounds like the answer is yes. Incorporating plants in your diet is really important. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. You should, the overall recommendation for health in the cancer survivorship and prevention is focusing primarily on a plant-based diet.
Thank you. I will let you jump into the diets, and then we've got a couple of questions, and we are nearing time.
Okay. All right. So I just compiled some questions. Diet is very high fat, low carb. This is supported. There's supportive evidence to use the keto diet for brain cancers. You might have also heard it common for epilepsy or young children. And for the oncology world, if you're in active treatment, rapid weight loss from the keto diet and the restrictedness of the diet is not beneficial to anyone in treatment, and it's not beneficial to anyone long term because you will miss out on a lot of important vitamins, minerals, nutrients that our body needs. And it can cause, acute health conditions, constipation. It changes it could be unhealthy for our heart and our blood lipids. not recommended for cancer prevention or therapy. Intermittent fasting is a popular one, and there are many options. If anyone has read into it, there's many options for length of fasting, length of non-fasting. The most common that I come across is the 5 and 2. So 5 days of normal diet, normal calorie consumption with 2 non-consecutive days of fasting, which is less than 500 calories in that day. So you might, 2 days your normal diet, then you have a fasting day, 2 days your normal diet, you have a fasting day, and so on. There is a lot of support for this during chemotherapy, actually. So it can manage some of the therapy, the chemo side effects. And this is something that you definitely, if you're considering using during chemo, that you want to talk to your dietitian about to make sure that it's done in a healthy, beneficial way. It also has a really good outcome for weight management. It's a good way to manage your weight. And the most important thing being, you don't want to go less than 50 grams of protein day for 50 grams of protein per day if you are on treatment doing this diet. The next one is the vegan diet, which vegan means it excludes flesh foods, dairy, honey, and eggs. So anything that was produced by a living thing or that once was living. It's actually the most cancer preventative diet pattern. And that's because there's a very high intake of plant based foods and a very low intake of the red meats and the processed meats. So it's actually very beneficial, but it's hard to follow for most people. And the other thing a little caveat that I wanted to throw in too is that if you go to this store, there's a lot of vegan products. For example, you can buy vegan cheese, vegan ricotta, vegan creamer, this and that. But that those products have so many artificial things in them. They're so very processed that defeats some of the benefits of going on a vegan diet. So I just want you guys to know that if, in my definition, the vegan diet, it's best if it's whole food products. It's not these very processed vegan substitutes. So be aware of that. There is increased risk for nutrition deficiencies. So again, if you're following a vegan diet, you want to talk to a dietitian to make sure that your body has everything it needs. And you might need to take some vitamins and minerals to support that, to support your body.
Thank you so much, Gina. And again, okay, perfect. We got that references slide there. Again, we will be sharing the PowerPoint after today's event. It should be coming to everybody by Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And we do have a few more questions, Gina, if we're okay to do that.
Sure.
So I've got a question here that was submitted at the very beginning. This is a good one. I am on the poop roller coaster from chemo and radiation. So sometimes I need a little bit to loosen up and sometimes a little bit to firm up. What food can help me? I've heard bananas to firm up, question mark. What do you think, Gina? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, so gotta love chemotherapy throws our bowels for a loop. Um, So there are two different types of fiber. There's a soluble fiber and an insoluble fiber in the foods. And our soluble fiber foods are going to help us firm up. That means your banana, your applesauce, your white toast, white rice, the age-old brat diet, if you will. Those are all soluble fiber foods that help us to firm up. Insoluble fiber helps us to get things going. So some roughage, some skins on apples and that sort of thing. Whole grains, beans help us to get moving. Now, constipation can be tricky because you don't want to be fully constipated, and a lot of times our patients have to use over-the-counter products to alleviate that situation. I recommend a lot of eat your dried prunes or drink your prune juice. Try Miralax mixed with 100% apple juice. 100% aloe vera juice is a natural laxative that is very effective. So there's lots. I mean, the fiber talk is long and extensive, and I'm happy to work through any of those issues with patients.
Thank you so much, Gina. We have one more that's pretty specific. Someone sent me a bag of apricot seeds or pits in early treatment, recommending that I grind them into my food, and I did not because I read that they contain cyanide. Do you have any thoughts on this? Have you heard about this, Gina?
I have never heard of such a thing.
You know
But
what? It's a good thing that you were cautious then, whomever submitted this question. It's a good thing you were cautious, it sounds.
yes, you have to be careful of these weird one-off things that people will tell you to do because they could be very dangerous. I don't know that you would want to put that in your stomach. I would be worried about what would happen to my tummy if I ate apricot pits.
Guarding your stomach is important as a survivor. The last little bit we've got here, Gina, and then I'll let everybody go. This from Julie. She said, no appetite right now. Nothing sounds good. I'm not a good water drinker. Help. What are some things that she can do, that we can all do to get some food down and just do what we can?
Yes, so eating on a schedule, number one. When you have no appetite, you can't skip meals. You have to keep to your normal schedule as much as possible, even if it's a bite or two. Just keep your schedule. Next thing I say is do bland foods. So, no strong smell or flavor. Just keep it really simple. Mashed potatoes, potato soup, stuff that's easy that you don't have to spend a lot of time cooking or smelling or that's not going to put you off.
Perfect.
Flavor your water. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to drink straight water, plain water. You can drink anything that has no caffeine in it. That is a liquid. That's hydrating. So whatever it takes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gina. Before we all go our separate ways, is there anything else you'd like to say, Gina, before we all sign off here?
Well, I wanted to show you guys the final picture of what the
See the
soup
final
looks like here.
product.
And it smells very good.
Oh, wow. That looks phenomenal. If only
So
technology had advanced enough that we can all have a bowl. That looks great.
I know. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells very good. So
Thank you so much, Gina. And again, this recipe and the slides will be shared as soon as we can get to this and get everything all compiled for you all. We'll send it in an email. I wanted to add that A Time to Heal also has our annual cancer conference coming up in May. So if you are tuned in, please visit our website. It is atth.org/conference if you specifically want to check out the conference that we've got coming up. It's a full day of sessions, super affordable right now, $25 for general admission and $75 for our healthcare professionals that are here if they'd like some continuing education credits as well. So again, A Time to Heal, we offer free resources for cancer survivors and caregivers.